Hi there, this is One Up India with a mini devlog about GunCade, what it is all about, what it entails, and today I'm just gonna talk about two things: the setting in which the game takes place and what it is actually all about, and the system. And of course the first and most obvious thing is the inspirations which we have drawn from other games, which namely are Papers, Please and Valhalla Cyberpunk Bartender. And the game is played in a similar fashion, so it's more or less kind of because I have to say kind of a visual novel without the absolute raunchiness which most games of this genre go, because let's face it, most visual novels just are about, you know, getting into the good graces, or even more than the good graces, of some waifus and just capturing them. Nothing wrong with that, but we wanted to go a little bit more in the story heavy way, where the decisions make you know, interesting outcomes which can go completely bad or completely good. So therefore you can even play and be a saint, or you can be a really evil person, and the game won't be punishing you for that, because, you know, you want to test out and see how things are going, and the game does allow you that. And then this is then being done through two systems which I'm gonna go into detail in a few seconds. So that's GunCade in the office. And then, for example, our first inspiration is once again Valhalla, because it's not extremely, but it's quite similar. Here we go, that's in this game. And in the end what you have is a system where you have your dialogue partner. So just to put it quickly into a nutshell, what Cyberpunk Bartender Action Valhalla is all about: it's basically about a female bartender which tries to make a living serving people in a bar in the future. So this is kind of a futuristic bar, and therefore NPCs are coming in, and some of them you can actually, you know, you do what a bartender is doing, giving them some futuristic drinks, and then if you get them tipsy, sometimes they give you even more text exposure or exposition, and therefore this is what the game is doing. And then the loop is between dialogue and minigame and dialogue, and then the day ends, and then you can just buy with the money which you're having gifts for the main character to keep her happy. And then depending how you treat her with the gifts which you're buying for her, then there are different outcomes, because this is kind of tied to her happiness. And we did kind of a similar thing, because we want to have kind of a branching storyline in our game, and we are not mixing any, you know, drinks. We are actually doing something different. So this is basically the inspiration, and well, a similar thing. So setting this was really important for us to recapture the 80s and 90s flair. So this is kind of, if you played GTA Vice City, so you know what we are talking about. It's basically the, in quotations, good old 80s and 90s, where arcades were a standard thing, where the colors were bright, the computers were almost non-existent, and everything was, you know, cumbersome, heavy, inefficient, and looking like a brick and really ugly. There's nothing which is today looking like everything is kind of slick and, you know, round and so on. And in the, in quotations, good old days, everything was more or less, it was a different time, and therefore technology wasn't as efficient, and you had to wait, and everything wasn't the same as this. And then, for example, in this game you can actually buy some stuff to influence the dialogue outcomes. So here you can change it. This is the same what you do, for example, in Valhalla as well. And our idea was just in this game to create this atmosphere of the old times, which were more, how can I say it, more direct and more punishing, but of course you could get more stuff out, and therefore you see the colors are more neon colors, they are brighter, they are more reflecting the old times. And why did we, call our game actually GunCade? Because it's a name between selling guns, which we do under the hand in our arcade. So we just had like Gun Arcade, so GunCade. So this is how we came up with that name. But of course we wanted to capture the times which you see, for example, here in the light, or for example in the infomercials, which were infamous in the old times. And you can just browse through that. I just love that stuff. What I'm not gonna talk about in this devlog is the AI art, which you're seeing everywhere. So most of that stuff is AI art, whether you like it, dislike it, or you don't care. Because that needs to be addressed in a singular devlog, I guess 2 or 3, where I discuss how we created them, what kind of issues there were, what kind of monstrosities I have created with that, because I created a lot of monstrosities and really some bad stuff. But so AI art is difficult to handle. Let's do it like this. So this is not an easy topic just to explain in 1-2 minutes. But of course, coming back for the settings, we try to recreate not just artistic art style, but of course the music, which was synthetic beats, which were prevalent at that time. So therefore, hopefully the music is more or less in this kind of regard as well. So here you play as the owner of the gun arcade, and then you are kind of in a dire situation, so you just do this out of bad circumstances, and then therefore the whole story evolves around that, if this was actually a good idea to do so. And then people will come in which are near people to you, so for example your employee or your wife, or for example some others which you could perceive as love interest but not so much, or for example people which are just coming in and disrupting your whole world with their craziness. So therefore we wanted to keep it relatable but not completely far out. So here we wanted to bridge the middle ground, because you're doing something which you don't really want to do, but you have to do it out of necessity, and therefore you're selling arms. Let's just go forward. Don't be alarmed by all the numbers. This is my debug, so this is just for me, so I can scroll through stuff really quickly. And our mini game is basically, as you can see, we were selling guns, and therefore you have 3 options, which could be selling that stuff to him, botching it because you completely sold the wrong stuff, or you can actually refuse, and the refuse is actually used for completely, which you can do, pacifist run. So this is completely possible, but of course you won't be going too far, because at some point you have to sell stuff. If you don't, some things will happen. So here just a thing, but of course it's possible, so we wanted to do that. So this is, for example, concerning stylistically, once again, neon colors, some completely made up weapons. So what is this? No, let's go, I don't know, submachine guns. Let's go with a pistol. Here, the beagle. Just completely fake things, and then you can play around and customize them further on. And then, well, this is the way that goes. So this is our game. Hopefully you like it. Our idea was that the decisions are meaningful, because the characters will give you hard choices between here and there, and therefore it does make sense sometimes to be denying some people or just selling to them. Depends on what feels right for you. And of course you can play as a completely evil guy, as a pacifist, or you don't care, and therefore you can play it the way you like it, and just develop your own story through it, because in the end there will be a kind of not a flip chart, but for example what you see in the old Fallout games, where your choices have meaning and they are being reflected at the very end. For example, if you, for example, don't bail out your employee, which you can do later on, you just say, he's gonna be fine because he's getting abducted, and you just, I don't care. That has, of course, consequences, and this is one of the highlights of the game, where your choices can be fun, and entertaining, because this is the way you roll, and this is how you write your own storyline to the end. That was super important for us, because I see that in a lot of games they just play it a little bit too safe, but I think this is, of course, just a personal opinion of mine. I like that the player has the choice to be absolutely evil or absolutely good. This is in your power, and you write the story, because in the end people write their own stories with their games, and therefore you should give them the option without judging them. Hey, don't go this direction or don't go this direction. I thought, like, hey, just leave a lot of doors open. So that was one of the interesting parts. And here, coming to the last thing, which, for example, made our game an interesting part, we wanted to import or create a karma system. So karma, by that we wanted to completely change how NPCs are coming in, and you change completely your surroundings. So, for example, if you supply the mafiosi people with guns, that was reflecting then on your karma. And then, for example, the main character, which you would be seeing, but we kicked that out, he would be, for example, losing hair because he was just doing too much raunchy stuff, too much bad stuff, and therefore that would be reflected on the way he looks like. We kind of kicked that out because that was a little bit too elaborate and a little bit too difficult to pull off. Or, for example, if you would be a little bit too orderly, because there was this chaos and order system which we wanted to have in our karma, and depending which direction you steer to, other NPCs would be coming in and the whole city would change to you. But we thought, like, hey, this is a little bit too much out of scope, so we kicked it out. But the game does have consequences, and you end up in the news anyways, so you do have an impact on the world. Maybe not a lot of times the impact which you want to have, but you do have an impact, which is getting the main character in a lot of hot water again and again and again, and he's just like, what have I done? What did I start? But of course we wanted to keep it relatable, so this is once again a completely normal person just getting into really interesting, or maybe some situations which he hasn't thought or would be happening, and then boom, the story goes on and on and on. And I don't want to spoil too much, because there are tons of interesting characters which just further the whole impression, like, hey, this is completely out of my control, whatever I do. So we just wanted to give you kind of a roller coaster in different ways. So that was it for the first devlog. So once again, it's not a shooter. I'm sorry. It is a game like Valhalla, Cyberpunk, Bartender, or Papers, Please. Have a good one. One up indie.